All right, it's time for our 2021 NBA mock draft, streaming here on our YouTube page. For those of you who are watching this after the live stream, welcoming you as well. So I'm Double G. This is Brian. Brian's my son, and we're going to host this show. But we have a bunch of people we're going to bring on who are going to drop some draft picks on us. I will pick first because it's the easiest pick in this draft. But we're going to go 1 through 14. And the reason why we're going through 14 is because my beloved Warriors have the 7th and the 14th pick. Brian will make the 7th pick. But to kind of introduce what we're doing here, just the draft in general, do you think this draft... Now, I'm going to assume that you're fired up for this draft because the Warriors have 2 picks in the first 14. But what is it about the draft that you enjoy so much? Because this is something that you're interested in every year, even if the Warriors aren't picking high.
I think I just like the idea that these kids who I mainly started getting big interest for the draft when DeAndre Ayton's draft was happening. I always watched it years before, but I think that draft was like the biggest one that got me going into him, and that's because one, he was my age, and two, I guess classmate.
Well, yeah, you guys were freshmen together at U of A.
Yeah, so now it's kind of cool seeing all these kids who are younger than me just like about to join the NBA and make millions and make some of them make immediate impacts to teams and have long careers and stuff like that.
So you guys did a podcast, the BAM podcast, and you guys did a mock draft. People can search the BAM podcast. You guys are on all the different platforms, right?
Except for Apple.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
How can you not be on that one?
I'm going to start paying for it. I'll do that.
Wait, why do you have
soon.
to pay for it? I don't have to pay for it.
Oh, well, then mind. Then I won't have to pay for it.
Well,
I thought you had to pay for it. That's why I never did it.
No. We'll figure out how to get you on Apple. Okay, so when you guys did your draft, were like you kind of have an idea of where this thing might go because you've already done one. But was there any? Did anything surprise you when it came to making picks?
I mean, there were definitely not a ton, but a couple of picks where I decided to do a hot take and take someone, and then that just completely threw off some of my friends, and it just completely affected the rest of the draft. But we last year we did one too, and we got like maybe 30% of them right. And this year I started the podcast by saying I want to get at least 50% of these right, and I think we're maybe going to get like 10% of them right based on how I saw it go.
Okay, so let's kick this off. So I am picking the first pick here, and obviously Detroit is the team who's got the number 1 pick. They won the lottery. They really did win the lottery because a lot of people think that this draft has one top player and then some really good, maybe 2 through 5-ish, maybe 6, and then it may fall off a little bit. But since the beginning, all we've heard back to the college season is that Cade Cunningham is going to be the first pick. Now, I didn't look at every mock draft, but the people who I pay attention to, KOC, Zach Harper, Sam Vecini, John Hollinger, John Wasserman, everyone says Cade is number 1. Now, some people are saying, well, what about Jalen Green? Jalen Green is that type of athlete who may even, who maybe could be a number 1 pick. Have you seen anything that suggests anything other than Cade Cunningham as number 1 pick?
So I've been listening to more like Jonathan Givony and Chad Ford and like Chad Ford's podcast, and I didn't want
to pay for Chad Ford's Substack. That's why I don't have his rankings.
Every time like I feel like Cade's brought up, he tries to say that like this draft isn't as big of a gap between like 1 and 2, or like I guess maybe you can even throw like Mobley and Jalen Green isn't as big of a gap like between Cade as most people say. I haven't heard anything to suggest that Mobley or Jalen can go number 1, but I have heard that just the gap's not as big as most people might believe it is.
And so, but what about from 2 to 3?
2 to 3, I don't think there's that much of a gap.
So theoretically, Cunningham, Green, Mobley, and Suggs are that they're. I think they're all projected to be fairly good players. I don't know. It's kind of interesting. Mobley as a big, Um, I know he's, I think we just watched finals. I think everyone, you had mentioned him, DeAndre Ayton is kind of like the big that people are looking for now. He can play big, but also he's athletic, and he doesn't necessarily have to be pulled off the court if the other team goes small. So I think Mobley is kind of fits that as well. But okay, so I'm going to make the first pick, and I'm going to pick Kate Cunningham. That's no surprise. That's why I had the first pick, just to get it out of the way, because we're going to bring on some other folks who are going to make picks. So the next pick is the Houston Rockets, and we're going to bring Chris to the stream here. Chris, what is up?
Hey guys.
So when I asked, I said, hey, who has some good ideas of what teams they want to choose? You chose the Rockets number 2. Is it because you like the Rockets, or the Rockets, or because you just think that you know who should go number 2?
I am a Rockets fan. They're not actually my number 1 team. I actually prefer the Spurs, but to be honest, I picked the second pick because I thought it'd be easier. And I also like the Rockets as well anyway. But yeah, I didn't want to have to think quite as hard and worry about so many people maybe sniping me with some picks. So I went ahead and picked the Rockets.
Okay, so I know the Rockets, they need a little bit of everything, but when you're
a lot of it.
When you're looking at this pick, like, what is your focus as a fan, as someone who follows them? Like, if you're like, man, here's the one thing that they need, what would that be?
For one thing is hard to pin down, I would say, because they need just about a little bit of everything.
But maybe Christian Wood, right?
Yeah.
Christian Wood is a
that's what I was
player.
going to say. So, like you mentioned, the gap between like 2 through 3, 4, 5, and all that, it's really not that big. And Evan Mobley is one of those guys on there. It's one of the reasons I ruled him out is because of Christian Wood when I was looking at it, because I think he's actually a good piece to build around and everything. But other than that, I mean, they don't have a star on the team whatsoever to really lead the direction whenever they're playing on the court at all. So I would say I wouldn't necessarily not a star, but someone that can actually just be their offensive focus is what they would need.
Okay, so Kevin O'Connor has them taking Jalen Green, as does Zach Harper. Hollinger, Vicini, and Wasserman all have Evan Mobley here. Who is your pick?
Okay, so I already rolled out Mobley, like I said before. So to make it obvious, I'm going Jalen Green.
All right, so Jalen Green, like, did you get to see any of him in the G League? Like, did you watch any of his games?
No, I didn't watch any myself or anything, but he was playing so well. I mean, you couldn't help but catch highlights on SportsCenter every now and then. It may have been a little slow of a day to show G League highlights, but he was doing good enough to get on there.
All right, we're going to bring on John here, who has some Rockets takes as well. What did you think?
He's probably a bigger fan than me, actually.
What did you think of Green over Mobley?
I would go Mobley over Green. I think Mobley's the second best player in the draft. I don't think it's a big difference. So if it's either, I want Cade number 1, but don't think that's an option. But I think Mobley's slightly better than Green. Wouldn't be that upset with him.
Is there any duplication by drafting Mobley to the Rockets?
I mean, Wood is, in my opinion, their second best player.
Kevin Porter?
Kevin Porter would be third.
Who's their best player then?
I go John Wall.
Oh, wow. Is he? Yeah, I mean, John Wall, when healthy, is a pretty good player. But so when it comes to Jalen Green, do you think he can step in and be the person that they immediately build around? Because I think at the number 2 pick, it kind of has to be a guy who just immediately plays right away. And I got this question is for Chris, actually, and then John will get your take on that.
I think he's a guy you can jump in and play, give him the ball right away, and he'd be fine. And he's already, I mean, I know it's just G League, but I still feel like that might be a step above college, and that he's playing with more experienced players, even if they might not necessarily be as good. So I think that's just prepared him fine.
John, your thoughts?
Green would be an immediate starter on the Rockets. And I think the same thing about Mobley. I do think you can play Mobley and Wood together.
All right,
I have a couple takes on this.
Go ahead.
I think that at least with like the top 6 picks, I feel like you got to go best player available regardless of what you have on your roster, especially if you're the Rockets that don't really have any aspirations in the next 3 to 4 years. Yeah, maybe sooner. We'll see how it goes for them. But what I'm thinking is that for Jalen Green, I think that you can put him on this squad and just give him so many touches. You can let him shoot the ball as much as he wants. Like, I think when Kevin Porter Jr. got to the Rockets, like, we kind of saw how much he could score just because he's getting the ball so much. But I think that Evan Mobley might be the pick here still. It's because I think you go best player available, and I'm convinced that Evan Mobley has a higher ceiling than Christian Wood does.
That's
Okay,
fair.
so-
I can't even really argue a best player available logic anyway. So
So no, but you said that. But then we just had the conversation if Green could actually go 1. But I haven't seen anybody say Mobley could actually go 1.
I can't even remember the draft. But when I was looking up some stuff, there was one that had Mobley going 1 that I saw just because it caught my eye, but it was because of a trade. Like the Pistons had traded
Got
to
it.
someone else, and I cannot remember for the life of me what it was. But
I
That was the
can't
only
see
one I
anyone.
could see.
Yeah, I can't see anyone else but Cade going 1. But I am convinced that I think Jalen Green might win the Rookie of the Year just because I'm convinced that Jalen Green and maybe Kuminga might be more ready because I have a feeling that those G League guys was maybe better competition than the college. Because even though in those G League games they weren't playing against like the best NBA talent, but I don't think there was that like there weren't scrubs down there. Like they played against Jordan Poole. They had Jarrett Jack on their team. I mean, the list goes on, but I have a feeling that Jalen Green's going to come out the gates like going crazy right in the beginning, especially if he's on the Rockets over Cleveland, because I think he'll just have so many more opportunities in Houston. Then maybe he'll have to share the ball more with Garland in Cleveland. So I think that Jalen Green is going to. I want to say Rookie of the Year.
Oh, wow, Cade. Because Cade is going to have the opportunity to also be like the primary ball handler. He's, same thing with the touches. You're going to sort of build around him. So
I just have a
would
feeling that
actually be a
Jalen
fun
Green's
race,
going to
though.
get going first. Like he's going to right out the gates. Jalen Green's just going to be crazy. Cade might hit a little road bumps in the first couple of weeks and then take off. Is kind of what I'm trying to get at.
Okay, so let's bring Zach to the table here because he's going to make the Cleveland Cavs pick. And I'm gonna mess around here a little bit with the dynamic here. So we'll do this, and then I'm going to pull people who are talking into the big screen. So you get to see yourself on the big screen. All right, so Zach, so the Cavs team needs, that probably similarly to Detroit and Houston. There's lots of stuff that they need. But what would you say is kind of the A1 thing that the team needs right now?
Well, they seem to be already set at point guard with Darius Garland, and they drafted Isaac Okoro last year, so they have a good defensive small forward. And with Jared Allen coming up on restricted free agency, if they decide to pick a center here, then they could let him walk, or if they want to, because I know there's been thoughts about potentially trading Colin Sexton, so if they want to take another guard here, they could do that. But I think they can't really go wrong with anything.
Can I get your Colin Sexton hot take? A lot of people are sort of disenamored with him as somebody who just kind of gets his stuff and is not really a great team player, but I don't watch Colin Sexton on an everyday basis. So
I'm personally a pretty big fan of Colin Sexton. I've been on his bandwagon ever since he played a game 5-on-3 when he went to Alabama because everybody else got thrown out. And I'm also a Knicks fan, and there's been a lot of talks surrounding him to the Knicks potentially, and I would actually really, really like that. I think that he could immediately come in and be their second best scoring option.
I think you got a fan here, by the way.
All right.
There we go. That's what I'm talking about.
Hell
Live
yeah.
stream. All right, so so let's talk about this third pick. Those who didn't have Mobley going 2 have Mobley going here. I actually saw one mock, and this is Wasserman's mock, who has Suggs actually going here. But you just mentioned that you think that the guard situation is not a necessity in this draft. So go ahead and make your pick and give us the reason why.
So we thought it was pretty straightforward when we were talking about these picks about that whoever we were between Jalen Green and Evan Mobley. So whoever the Rockets pick, we'd take the other. So here we're going to take Evan Mobley.
All right. So do you see him stepping in immediately and, basically being the five and somebody who they can kind of immediately work in?
Well, it definitely depends on the Jared Allen situation if they decide to move on from him or not. And, the Cavs aren't that great right now. And we've seen in the past few drafts that these taller, young, skinnier centers sometimes need a little bit more time to develop before they're really ready to play very big minutes and stuff. But I think that this is the perfect situation for him where he can go in and play a lot and develop quickly since he'll be able to play a lot more here.
Do you see Mobley as sort of the Ayton fit, like I was describing? Like Ayton all of a sudden is kind of like the, he's the center that people want now because of what he was able to do in the playoffs in his third season. Is Mobley going to be the type of player who can stay on the court and people cannot play off of the court?
Yeah, I think the intrigue with Evan Mobley is that he does have all the tools and the athleticism, and the way he moves at a 7-foot body frame compares to that of your DeAndre Ayton or your Marvin Bagley, and that's why he's going to go as high as he is in the draft. So I think if he can put on weight the way that Ayton's put on weight, and if he can stay healthy, unlike Marvin Bagley, I think he's going to lead a similar NBA career to those two. Yeah, or hopefully not Marvin Bagley. Hopefully DeAndre Ayton.
Hopefully not Marvin Bagley.
Yeah.
Because if you like Marvin Bagley, I think the Kings have a nice little price going. Okay, so let's bring on Corey because Corey's going to talk about the next pick, which is the Raptors. What's up, Corey?
How's it going?
All right, so the Raptors, what would you suggest they are looking for in this draft?
So the Raptors are an interesting team because they can go a lot of different directions. I mean, over the last couple of days, you've heard that they're trying to move up into the draft to make some trades. They still have to figure out the Kyle Lowry situation. They already have a nice young core in the East. So they can really go all over the place. And, obviously COVID impacted everyone last year, but being displaced and out of Toronto really hurt them. So they have the opportunity to run it back, or they can completely rebuild. So they can really go anywhere. And so that's why it'll be really intriguing to see what they end up doing.
What is your take on Siakam? I know he had some issues with the coach, which I don't even know what those were. It seems like they kept all that stuff kind of very tight, very tight and just to the team. But I heard him in trade rumors to the Warriors, which I didn't think were necessarily that not to say true, but obviously if there's whispers, there's whispers. I didn't see that happening. But, just 2-3 years ago, he's really like the dandy of the league. Like everybody wants a Pascal Siakam. And maybe now it doesn't seem like he had that great of a season last year. What's your thoughts on him?
I think Siakam is a great player and a great tool that they can build around. Obviously, he's got to stay healthy. He's got to be committed and, really someone that's going to be there for the long term. So if they can get everything situated with his health and the coaching situation, I think he'll be fine. He'll be an integral piece. And I think that the pick that they take at 4 is going to be someone that can play with Siakam and they can build with in the future and keep him around.
So a lot of the draft prognosticators believe this is a spot for someone like Jalen Suggs, but you mentioned the Kyle Lowry situation. But it's so funny because I don't know when Hollinger actually he hasn't redid his mock in about 11 days. So this is kind of funny because he had Sengun going 4 here to the Rockets, which I thought was pretty funny. But so give me your pick. Who are you taking with this 4th pick?
Yeah, I think they keep it simple. If they keep the pick, it's going to be Jalen Suggs. I mean, all around, this guy is just flat out a winner. From high school on, he can play point guard, like he play shooting guard, and he can be an immediate replacement for Kyle Lowry if he goes in free agency, or he'll be an integral piece to that team and in that young core. So I think Jalen Suggs is a player that's really gotten overshadowed over the last week or so in the draft as we get closer. And there's also been talk that he might not be for with a couple of players that will be mentioned here shortly. But I think they keep it simple, stick with Jalen Suggs, get a proven winner, an athlete, and someone that can run the show for them for years to come.
Have you heard any trade out rumors?
So as of a couple of days ago, it seems like Toronto's really trying to get somewhere top 3, assuming to get Cade Cunningham, Jalen Green, or Evan Mobley. But if they can't end up trading up, Jalen Suggs is definitely a great consolation prize, and the fans in Toronto will gravitate to him quickly.
Awesome. Anybody, Brian? What do you think about Suggs? It seems like he's. I mean, we saw in the beginning of this whole process, Suggs was actually talked about as like possibly a number 2 behind Cunningham. Now, that has changed a little bit, but he's still in that top 5. I rarely see him out of the top 5. Brian, do you have any thoughts on that? No, you're on mute.
I think Suggs is the right pick. I don't really have any takes on that. I was more thinking like just the Raptors in general. I feel like I've seen a couple headlines about them possibly blowing up, and like the Kyle Lowry to LA thing, and then the Pascal to the Warriors thing. But assuming they just lose Kyle Lowry and they pick up Jalen Suggs, I feel like this team could just like make the playoffs in the East with Jalen Suggs. Because like
exactly
before I want to say like halfway through the year they were like in the 6th seed, and then the whole Pascal stuff with the coach happens. I think they lost a lot of players to COVID for like a couple weeks, and then they just start tanking. I mean, you still have Fred VanVleet, you still have OG, you still have Pascal Siakam, you have Chris Boucher, who like could have been a defensive player. Like I think he was like up there on like top 5 in blocks per game or something. Like I think that you add Jalen Suggs to this team, who's like a winner, like I think you'll win.
Yeah, and
they just pick up Gary Trent.
Exactly. Yeah, they have to figure out what to do with Gary Trent. But I mean, the fact that Kyle Lowry didn't go at the trade deadline definitely lets you know that there wasn't enough out there, or they thought they could still compete the second half of the season. And, obviously things went awry, but this team is more than capable of being competitive in the East and being right there in the mix again. So if they don't want to do a full rebuild this season, you let Kyle Lowry go, you bring back Gary Trent, you bring in Jalen Suggs, and they're going to be in the mix again.
All right, so we're going to bring on Adam B to make the next pick. And so Adam, we're talking about the Orlando Magic. They have 2 picks. They have the 5 and the 8. Has there been talks about them trying to package up? Because they would look like they would have some of the assets to maybe go up a spot or 2. But has there been any talk about that?
Yeah, I've heard that. I don't think Cleveland is very receptive to that. If I were the Magic, that's definitely something that I would look to do, just because of kind of the gap that I perceive between Green and Mobley and who's available at 5. So, I mean, I think they definitely should look to do that, but I don't necessarily think Cleveland or Houston would be very receptive to it.
Okay, so in your opinion, what do they need? I mean, every team needs shooting, right? But they had, there's lots of stuff, whether it's a playmaker, whether it's shooting.
Sure.
In your mind, what do you think is the first thing that they're going to look for?
So the Magic, they just traded Vukovic and Gordon after kind of sneaking into the playoffs the last few years. So at this point, honestly, they're pretty much a total blank slate. I don't think you can look at anyone that they have. Like the closest thing is Jonathan Isaac, who has shown that he can be good. The issue is, and he just signed a 4-year extension. The problem is he just missed last season with an ACL injury. Over the course of his entire rookie deal, he only played over 40 games in a season once. So I don't know if you can really rely on him going forward, but he's probably the closest thing they have. They have Markelle Fultz. He has 2 guaranteed years left. He's going to miss next season with an ACL injury. So I wouldn't necessarily consider him part of the core. They do have some young guys that have, like Cole Anthony and RJ Hampton, guards that can't shoot, but they need the ball in their hands. So maybe you want to be receptive to that a little bit, but they're far from proven. Their big situation, Wendell Carter and Mo Bamba, both going into their last year of their rookie deals, so they're going to have to make decisions on them soon as well. And neither of those guys have really seemed to have panned out either. So the Magic are basically just a total blank slate, and they just got to kind of swing for the fences here.
So I think pretty much, I would say, until about the last 2 or 3 weeks, it looked like Kuminga was the pick here, and then all of a sudden you started to hear the switch to Scotty Barnes. Do you have a preference for either?
Well, this transitions pretty well into the pick itself. So if I were the Magic with the 5th pick, I'm taking Jonathan Kuminga. He just has so much more upside than Scotty Barnes to me. You know, he's been playing basketball for less time. He's a little bit younger. I'm not a total believer in the Scotty Barnes hype train in terms of his athleticism. I think he is a good athlete. I don't think he's a Kuminga level athlete. And I also think just mechanically, Scotty Barnes' jump shot limits him quite a bit. Like, he's never going to be a particularly good shooter. Whereas with Kuminga's mechanics, I think there's more hope for improvement there, so to where he can become, a more acceptable outside shooter. Now, this isn't to say that I think a lot of this pick has to do with just where the Magic are at as well, because Jonathan Kuminga, like, he could turn into Jaylen Brown or he could be Josh Jackson. Like, you really don't know, but that's just the kind of thing that the Magic have to do with the situation they're in.
All right, so we have Cade, Green, Mobley, Suggs, and now Kuminga gone. We're going to bring Russell up here in a second. He's going to pick for OKC. But Adam is going to come back for the Magic pick at number 8. Is there somebody in your mind for 8 that if all things sort of fall in, because somebody might steal who you think for number 8 coming up?
Thankfully, I have 2 guys that I love at 8. So
okay,
one of them's going to be there, I think.
Okay, all right. So let's bring Russell up to the screen here. But as we're talking about this, I want to ask everybody who's on the panel, and it's a very, very quick and simple question, which is in Adam's position, would you have gone Kuminga or Barnes? And let's start with Corey, and we'll go all the way down. Corey, Chris, John, Zach, Brian, and Russell.
I would have gone Barnes. I think Barnes is definitely going to be a major player. I do like the athleticism, and like they said, potential to be a Draymond Green-esque player. So I really like what's going on. So I would go Barnes.
All right, Chris.
No, I would have went Kuminga, just like you did. Yeah, same reasons he said. Really, I see a bigger upside in him.
I think the baby went Kuminga too. John.
I would have gone.
Yeah, that's my son.
Go ahead, John.
I would have gone Barnes.
Okay, Zach.
I would have went Barnes as well.
Zach and Anthony.
Yeah, I think the risk is too big for Kuminga. I think Barnes is a much safer option.
All right, Brian, I know you're a big Kuminga guy.
I'm a big Kuminga guy, but I kind of am on the Scotty Barnes train as well. I think that's
wow.
I think that's Scotty Barnes and Kuminga. Kuminga might have like a little higher ceiling, but I think Scotty Barnes has a way higher floor. So if you just want to be safe and then also kind of still be a little risky with, I'm just a big believer in Scotty Barnes being able to guard 1 through 5, in my opinion. So that's just where I would go.
You turned on Kuminga like nobody's business there. Like Hogan turned on WCW at the NWO. All right, Russell, do you have a Kuminga versus Scotty Barnes?
Yeah, I'm just representing for Oklahoma City. I tried to get us a little cowboy hat or something.
There you go.
yeah, we rep. And so the funny thing is, I like them in different positions. Like, I like them for different teams. Like, I like Kuminga in different places, and Barnes in others. So the place that I'm picking, if we're gonna lead into my pick, it so happens that because Kuminga got taken, I'm actually going to shift. And for Oklahoma City, I want to pick Davion Mitchell.
Interesting. That is an interesting one because I think most people early on, they saw Mitchell in this like 7-8 spot you're taking him 6, but I've actually seen information lately where Mitchell could slide a bit. So give me your reasoning for taking Mitchell this high.
So you figure Oklahoma City, they're a couple years away, but they have a piece in place, which is Shea. So my thing is, if we're not going to get these like with the highest ceiling, and I feel like Barnes has a ceiling that's not quite as high as Kuminga, but he's probably more likely to reach it. So if I'm going to be in this place and I can't take the shot at the person with the high risk, high reward, I kind of think that because I got Lou Dort and I also have Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, that maybe adding Mitchell to that backcourt, he's an older player, so he's kind of in the same timeline as them as well. I think that shows up my guard rotation. And if I got all these drafts, I got 20 picks coming up the next 5 years. I can pretty much pick anywhere else and plug in those spots. I just think that the league made a mistake with Mitchell before, with Donovan Mitchell, where they let him slide, and he wound up being one of the best players in the draft. And I don't think that Sam Presti would have that prior knowledge and make the same mistake twice. I think Barnes. I think that Mitchell fits in well with what they have going on down there.
So if this happens on Thursday, I think it sends a shock because people are like, wait, you're going to hand deliver Scotty Barnes to the Warriors at 7. And if that happened, I think it would make some people crazy here. But look, I was kind of, so all the Mitchell talk, because the Warriors have had this 7 pick for a while now. And at first, when I saw him size out at 6'0", I was like, wow, and he doesn't have that long reach like some of these other guys do who are a little bit smaller.
I'm sorry, real quick, if I could jump in real fast.
Yeah, go for it.
I factored that in, but I seen Lou Dort is 6'6", and we also have Shea 6'5". So I feel like their strengths on defense can help kind of balance out whatever he might lack as far as his size.
And on the flip side, for me, it was the Warriors. It's like Steph is 6'2.5", 6'3". So would Mitchell fit with Steph? And I wasn't sure, but then I did a little bit more research, and I was like, you know what? This guy can play, but I do wonder how teams are turned off with the size here. I'm
sorry. Again, I just really believe, like, on top of the fact that we also watched him just go to the national championship as well. So it's a proving, like, he's showing that he can win. And I think adding that to an Oklahoma City team that's trying to build a foundation and culture, I think that might actually be a good pick for them. I'm not saying they will do it, but if I was in control, I would pick him.
All right, we got more people watching. I agree. I'm in agreement here. Okay, so Brian, I don't think you thought Scotty Barnes was going to be here at number 7.
Yeah, not one bit.
And so he is there. The Warriors can't pass on him, right? If Scotty Barnes is there, you got to take him.
I was convinced that after Kuminga got taken, Scotty was going to go 6, and then I was going to have to choose between Bouknight and Mitchell, and I was probably going to go Mitchell. But now that Scotty Barnes is there, I'm taking Scotty Barnes.
You're welcome. You're very welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Russ.
It might not. It might not be the biggest. It might not be the best fit because I think Scotty Barnes maybe gotten a Draymond Green comparison, a Ben Simmons comparison, and then we just ruled out Ben Simmons to the Warriors because Draymond and Ben Simmons might not fit well together. But after listening to the Athletics Plus Minus podcast, they were saying that they believe that pick at number 7 can become way more valuable during the draft if someone like Jonathan Kuminga falls, if someone like Scotty Barnes falls mid-draft, then you can still package that with 14 and Wiseman and get someone big. So I think you take him for now just for the fact that there's a lot of value in him versus, I want to say, like, no hate to Mitchell, but I think Scotty Barnes has more value than Mitchell and Bouknight.
I mean, when I was saying how I felt about the pick, I seen a couple people not in agreement. Am I off the reservation here, or am I kind of anybody see what I'm going for?
Well, I think someone was going to do a run in here. I'm going to throw him on the screen. Adam, did you want to say something?
Oh, it was the other Adam who didn't really like the Mitchell pick.
Okay. All right, let's bring in the other Adam here because he's the last person that we have yet to add to the feed, and then we'll get his thoughts on this one. All right, Adam S.
Yes.
Give us your thoughts on what just happened.
Yeah, so I think Mitchell is a good player, like definitely a first rounder. I just don't really understand him as a lottery pick. Like if you look at where he was going before those last 2 tournament games, he was mostly like second, like early second, late first, maybe. And then like just suddenly like shot way up after because he had like 2 good games, which is usually a bad thing. The other thing is I just don't really trust his offense. If you look at like his career stats, he was not a good offensive player until this year. When he like this was the first time he ever scored in double digits. He averaged like 9 points a game for his career. This is the first time he shot well from 3. He's never, even last year, shot well from the free throw line, which is usually an indicator on shooting. So I just don't really trust that he's going to be like a good enough offensive player to be worth a top, 10 pick. And the other thing is that he's just kind of old. Like he's 22, and I just in a good draft, I don't think I would want to take a 22-year-old that high. He has like such an advantage of the people he's playing against in college this year. He's like bigger, had more time to develop all that. And if you look at the history of guys that old who have gone into the lottery, it's not great. It's a lot of like Jimmer Fredette's, Ekpe Udoh's, Wesley Johnson, like Chris Dunn. So I just don't understand taking him when you can take someone like, you talked about him earlier, like Jaden Springer, who was good as a freshman in the SEC, like scored 14 points a game, is also a good defender, even if he's not quite Mitchell's and is bigger. So that's my only thing. I just don't think he really has like the upside that I want from that kind of pick.
Okay, so could the counter for Mitchell be, though, like, because you mentioned some of the older guys who in the past, but Mitchell is clearly a fantastic athlete, right? Like he's not in that spot because there are worries about whether he can keep up with guys. Like it's the flip side. They think he could defend like literally right away, and that he's smart enough to play right away and to be a contributor. But I think what you're saying is that the upside isn't there.
Yeah, and just also, the upside just like feels like he's probably like maxed out. Like he's had more time to develop his skills. He just doesn't have as much time to like develop, like work on his shot work. Like he's closer to what he's going to be than someone who's like 18. And I think you have to factor that in when you're doing a draft where he's getting compared to guys who are like freshmen or 18, 19, 20, something like that. And then like on the defense, I agree he's really, really good. But as you said, he's also only like 6 feet tall. So that kind of limits like who, like there's going to be like, you're not going to put him on like Paul George or someone. They're just going to shoot over the top of him. It's a little bit better in OKC because you have Shaq as point guard.
This is why I'm feeling like that works, because it might not have worked if everybody was at 6, but I think because of specifically of what Oklahoma City already has as far as their strengths, that he could fit in, and his strengths can be magnified by the people that he's playing around. And like I said, it might not be a pick that they make, but I was thinking if we have a good time, I'll pick something that I think that would work out well. Yeah, like,
conversational point. I liked it. I liked it. It got us going here.
Yeah, he's clearly like a good player, so I don't it's not like a terrible pick or anything. I just wouldn't want to take him that high.
Yeah, I understand exactly, because I also was thinking about one of the wings as well, because one of the wings could fit. Yeah, but then I'm like, hey, let's shake it up a little bit.
I mean, anyone could really fit for Oklahoma City. I think. Yeah,
at this point,
exactly.
Except for no big man, because Poku got that locked down. But everything else,
that's yet to be seen on a bigger scale.
It's been seen.
No, I'm with you. I'm Team Poku.
With that being said, I think the thing about Mitchell is that it could go one of 2 ways. One, he could be a great role player for a proven winner or a team that's going to make the playoffs, next year, like a Warriors, right? And be a great guy coming off the bench and, eventually be a little bit more. But on the flip side, if he goes with Oklahoma City, he's going to fit in right away culturally and bring that maturity and that leadership to guide those teams that are going to struggle, quite frankly, next year, to hopefully be a core to get them into a playoff position. If Donovan Mitchell slides to like a Memphis, I see them trying to trade up to get him. Like he would be a great fit on a team like Memphis.
But like with the you see from Milwaukee's success, Atlanta's success, Phoenix success, like right now building coaches and getting these people in here that fits the type of mold of player that you want to have around is what you need to do. Sometimes you might have to reach to do it. Like when the Suns had to reach, they got laughed at when they picked Cam, but it wound up working. Like, you know what I mean? It was they made a reach for somebody that fit in what they needed at that time. And sometimes it's risky to use these lottery picks like that. But if it hits you can go in the fight. You can wind up in the finals next year or something like that. You never know.
Yeah, true. We'll see.
All right, let's move on because now Adam has a second opportunity here to grab another player. So first, when he was up with the number 5 pick, he went Kuminga over Scotty Barnes, which caused Barnes to slide a little bit. But I guess before we get there, what I wanted to ask Russell is, if he would have gone Barnes over Kuminga, do you let Kuminga, or do you draft Kuminga instead of Mitchell in that spot?
Yeah, that was the main thing with the decision. Like, if Kuminga would have slid, I would have definitely picked him because his ceiling, I feel, is the highest in the draft. Like, everything got to go right, but if it does, then we looking at somebody that got all the tools. He also has the professional experience from playing in the G League last year. And I watched, I listened to an interview where, I'm sorry, was it Stackhouse? I think it was a play, somebody that's working in the G League right now, and they was talking about Kuminga and also Jalen Green, where they said they like Green better, but they also said Kuminga was good too. So I probably would have went Kuminga if he was available, but I was still kind of looking at the Mitchell thing too.
All right, who's this handsome guy right here?
Oh, this is my son. Say hello, guy. That's why I'm making all that noise.
All right, so Adam, you're back. Let's get it going. You got the second pick for the Magic here, and we had a little bit of a veer there. So who's up at 8 for you?
Yeah, I'm really excited. This was the guy I wanted, James Bouknight, number 8. Saying Kuminga has all-star potential, I'm pretty confident Bouknight does as well. He's one of the most polished scorers in the draft. He can get to the rim, he can pull up, get size and athleticism, plays above the rim. Just really confident about what he can do. One of my only concerns about him is really like the 3-point percentage is a little low, but he's a good free throw shooter, which is a good indicator. And then also UConn was not good, and they did not have good spacing. So he was getting all the focus from the defense. So played in the NBA with NBA level spacing, although he might not have that in Orlando his rookie year. I think his shooting could improve significantly from deep.
Are you worried about the playmaking because he's at 6'3"? Depending on who you team him up with in the backcourt. The Warriors basically saw this with Jordan Poole, which is why I'm asking.
Sure.
So I think they're comparable.
So he's 6'4", up about maybe a little bit under, but he's about 6'4", and he has a 6'8" wingspan. So I think that helps. I think he's long enough to be able to play the 2 solidly and not have to worry about that too much. If it was a different team, I would be worried about him, like whether he can play off ball or not. But on the Magic, he's going to have the ball, and he can do whatever he wants with it.
All right, go ahead, Bri.
Did you think of maybe Sengun at this pick at all, or were you just Bouknight to the wall?
Just Bouknight. I'm not going to say who else I was going to pick because I don't want to steal anyone's thunder. But Bouknight was the guy I was hoping, definitely hoping for. So I feel like he has all-star potential, and I feel like Kuminga has all-star potential. Like the issue with Barnes is just like I do really like him, but he's not as good a playmaker as Ben Simmons, and probably never will be. So even if he's as good as Simmons in other areas, like what's Ben Simmons like without as much playmaking? So that's kind of my concern there. And again, because it's the Magic, just taking some big swings on getting hopefully 2 future All-Stars here.
All right, we're going to bring John back to the screen here because he's coming up next with Sacramento. And I guess the question that I wanted to ask you with Sacramento is, they were historically bad last year defensively. And I see someone like Scotty Barnes out there, and I'm like, man, if they could trade up to get him, that seems like a really good fit for them. But I don't know, what's the scuttlebutt around that? Has there been any talk about that? Have they tried to trade up in this draft?
I mean, they have pieces they could trade, like Marvin Bagley. He's a piece I don't think they really care for anymore. He's something they could use to trade up. Scotty Barnes would have been a good pick for them, I think. I think it would really help them being like a kind of defensive extra playmaker. They already have Halliburton, Fox, but more playmaking doesn't hurt them.
So we're at an interesting point in this draft because if you look at where a lot of the prognosticators, where they start to differ big time, it is right here, right at this 8-9 spot, and it is all over the place. Like you have someone like Viceni, I don't know how to pronounce the last name. Viceni, is it Viceni? Vicini. He's got Keon Johnson here, but then you talk about someone like Zach Harper. He's got Kai Jones here, and some of these, like someone like Wasserman, he's got Jalen Johnson, who others don't have until coming into the 20s. So this is an interesting spot because I feel like it becomes a little bit more of an unknown about where guys are going. And I imagine when this draft happens on Thursday, we're going to see names kind of go all over the place. But John, who do you have the Kings taking here?
So I have the Kings taking Franz Wagner or Wagner. I think he's a good kind of forward for them because they already have Halliburton and Fox, which I think are their future. I think they were also trying to trade Buddy Hield, but I think Wagner will help with playmaking. I think he can shoot well.
I hope y'all get out his pick just like I got in mine too.
But I think he could also play with Bagley if they still want to give Bagley a chance.
Okay, so obviously he is Mo Wagner's little brother, and I feel like this hasn't been talked about a lot, but what you see, and you can see it with LaMelo, right? Like the little brother, for whatever reason, he's got this thing to live up to, and you look, Mo Wagner made the NBA. He's not a great player in any way, but I feel like there's something there with his little brother where he's a little bit. He's a better prospect for sure, but there's something there. He's interesting to me because of the way that he plays, and you see this type of player, or what he maybe portends to be, fits very well if he can create his shot. Looks like he could probably hit an open three, but can he create his shot? He's got size. We'll see about sort of the athleticism there, but yeah, he's an interesting guy. He may not have great moves to kind of open up stuff, but we'll see. I think if you can hit these big shots, and he's not going to get blocked on these closeouts because he's so tall, he's an interesting guy to me for sure.
He reminds me of Gallinari a little bit. Kind of tall shooter who can move the ball around. Definitely not the most athletic, but.
Yeah, I mean, the way the NBA is going, it's all about 3-and-D. So if he can, get the plays or hit the shots made by Fox and Halliburton when they give him the open looks, he'll definitely be a good fit for the Kings. But yeah, I mean, it's a tough prospect to really see how he's going to translate to the NBA because he is tall, he can shoot, but is he going to be able to play defense? Is he going to have the athleticism to, stick? But I mean, I guess that's yet to be determined, and obviously with the Kings, they'll really try anything at this point to make an impact.
Yeah.
See, I think he's a really really good defender. Actually, I root for Iowa, so I watch a lot of Big Ten basketball, and I think he was the best defensive player in the conference and one of the best ones in the country. I think he moves really well. He's got really good timing and instincts for getting deflections and weak side shot blocks and stuff. And, he's 6'9", so I think he's going to be able to guard at least 2 through 4 pretty well. I think that's a really good pick for them because they need defense bad. And I think he has a chance to have one of the higher defensive ceilings in the draft.
What about finishing?
I think he's a good finisher. His offense is he's kind of a weird part. He's not elite at anything on offense, but he's pretty good at everything. He's an okay shooter. He's a pretty good finisher on cuts and stuff. He's just really not very aggressive, which I think is maybe okay with the Kings because you have someone like Fox as a number one. But I think he'll hit open threes. He'll make smart cuts and stuff like that. I think he'll be fine.
All right, so let's stay with you because you have the next pick.
I do.
Pelicans. I guess pretty disappointing season last year based off of hype. Coach didn't fit in very well with some of these young players. I don't know if the Stan Van Gundy type probably needs a little bit more of a veteran kind of team. But what do you think first before you make your pick? What do you think about the current pieces? Like for me, I'm a big Brandon Ingram fan, but I think it's because I see him as like Kevin Durant light, and that may be a little bit big of a shadow for him. But I do like watching him play basketball. But do he and Zion fit? Like, what are they going to do? Are they? Is Lonzo gone? Like, what's going to happen there?
So Ingram, I think he fits pretty well. The only issue with him and Zion is that they're both right now pretty bad defenders. And so like with two of your two best players are both bad defenders, that makes it tough to get too far. I think Zion will get better. Ingram, he just seems kind of like slow, and maybe it's never. He does have like the frame for it, so you would think he could be better. But so far, maybe it's just like, he's young, so he'll probably get better. But yeah, he's only like 25, 26. He's still really young. He came into the league super young, and he's a good shooter. So I think he's a nice piece. And then Lonzo, it probably will depend on like the price. It seems like he's probably gone. I don't think he's worth what he's going to get paid. I don't think he's like, it seems like he's going to want a pretty big contract. And I just think his upside's kind of limited because his handle isn't very good and he can't really shoot off the dribble. Like he's a nice supporting player if you're an already good team, but it seems like he wants to get paid like he's like a legit like second option. And I don't really see that for him.
Now, do you guys go shooting? Who replaces Lonzo? Like, what are you thinking here?
Yeah, I think the two big things they need are shooting for one. Just because if you have someone like Zion who's just like unstoppable going to the hoop, you want to put shooters around him to really maximize him. And when they had JJ Redick, that like pick and pop where JJ would screen for him and then flare out was like their best play. So definitely shooting. I think they need like a rim protect. Like they need defense really bad. They were bad defense. You got to like kind of hide Zion on that end just because he's a little small for the position he plays. It's like another rim protecting center. They have Adams, but seems like he's on the downslope and maybe not like the best shot blocker. And then just like wing depth, I think everyone needs generally.
Yeah, everybody in the whole league could do. All right, so what are you thinking here? Number 10, all the guys that have just been taken. Does anyone here fit what you were looking to
Yeah, so I am going to take Moses Moody out of Arkansas. Just like a ready-made 3-and-D guy. I think he fills like both their needs for like defense, and also he was a good shooter. Shot like over 35% from three on big attempts, shot like 80% from the line, and was like top 10 in the country, I think, in free throw attempts. Scored like 16 points a game on a good team, like an Elite 8 team for Arkansas. With like, I think led the SEC in like win shares, was just like a really good player, a really young player, and is already used to playing off of stars because he played high school with Cade and Scotty Barnes. So he's used to like, he can like slide into that role off of like a high usage player and like knows how to like get open for threes, and he plays really good D. He's got like a 7-foot wingspan, got tons of like blocks and steals and stuff. So I think I think he fits pretty much everywhere, but I think he's a really good fit for a team that has someone like Zion.
It does seem like a good fit because he doesn't have to be the number 2 guy. He could be the number 3, the number 4 guy, hit open shots off of what those guys are creating. Mm-hmm. And I know Adam, the other Adam, had some thoughts on this spot too. So what did you think of Adam S's pick there?
So Moses Moody was the other guy I was considering for Orlando. So I love this pick. I especially love it for New Orleans for all the reasons you pointed out. Great potential as a defender, great potential as on offense as well. I think of him as like a lower end outcome, medium outcome, and high end outcome. Like lower end outcome, he's Wes Matthews after the knee injury. Medium outcome, Wes Matthews before the knee injury, and then high end outcome. I think he could be, like Chris Middleton, and I mean that's the perfect guy that you want next to Zion. The only caveat I'll throw in there is there's been some rumors about the Pelicans potentially trading down to get off, maybe to Memphis or somewhere in that range to get off of Eric Bledsoe's contract, so they can free up some more money to potentially keep Lonzo and Josh Hart. And there are some shooters that should be available in the mid-first round as well. Probably don't have as much potential as Moody does, but could also kind of fit the bill. So that's just something else to pay attention to for New Orleans. But yeah, totally love this pick.
All right, we are finally going to get Anthony in here. He's been waiting for a long time to finally make his pick. He's got the Charlotte Hornets here. So, Anthony, give me your thoughts on what you think the Hornets need in this draft.
Awesome. I really wanted to get a 2-guard to pair up with LaMelo Ball for the future. I don't see Graham or Rozier or Malik Monk being the answer for him. It's a guard-heavy league. I think you really need to, especially in this draft where I think there's a ton of talent at the guard position, to get someone to play next to LaMelo Ball. But unfortunately, everybody also had the same idea. Guys like Davion Mitchell, Moses Moody just went, who I would have taken, James Bouknight. So they're all gone. So I think the big obvious answer is to address the center position with Tyler Zeller there. He's just an average to below average center in the league. So with this pick, I'm going to take Sengun. I'm going to stop him from going any deeper in this draft. He's definitely the best center available at this spot. Their forward positions are perfectly fine with Bridges and with Washington there. They match up well with LaMelo Ball. And I think the answer is just to build your team around LaMelo Ball. So you go Sengun for the spot.
Okay, so Sengun, a little bit more of like a conventional center, like maybe not a guy that's going to stretch out, like is kind of the fancy, the way that they want centers to play today. Does that scare you at all?
No, I think if you watch the tape, I mean, the Turkish league is one of the best leagues in Europe, and he was able to put up 18 points a game there as I think 18 years old or 19 years old, as he's very young. But I think if you just watch the tape, I think he's quick enough laterally where I think he's not going to be a huge disappointment in the paint on defense. His offense game, he's like remarkable when it comes to the inside. He has great touch. It reminds me a lot of Nikola Vucevic. And I think with LaMelo Ball, like in a pick and roll situation, he looks like he has enough of a frame, enough build for him to be able to set the pick, use his footwork to move to the basket, and receive passes where you can just put a nice little touch layup in. I think you can put him down in the low post and give it to him back to the basket. I think you can get you boards. I think his ceiling defensively isn't going to be a star. He's only, I think, 6'9". But I think he'll be just a competitive average defender. I think that's all you're going to need if his offensive game is going to be as good as I think it will be.
How are his hands? I haven't seen anyone talk about his hands, because if you're talking LaMelo Ball, passes are going to be coming out of all these crazy positions. You better have some stick 'em or something.
I didn't get to watch a lot of the Turkey games, but I mean, in the highlight videos, he looks like he had solid hands. I mean, the highlight videos aren't going to show him fumbling the ball too much, but he looks like he was able to receive the passes perfectly fine.
Yeah, the big thing with Sengun is it's going to be the offense is going to have to outshine the defense. I mean, to be that young playing center in the NBA, it's going to be tougher out the back. So, like I said, he's going to have to be able to hang offensively and hold his own defensively. But great hands, great offense. 18 years old, 6'10", MVP of a Turkish league, that young, and which is one of the best leagues in Europe. It says a lot. So if he can put up points early on, it should be enough to give him the minutes to hopefully stick around for defense. But he definitely has a bright future, and Charlotte would be a great place for him to land, getting all those passes from LaMelo.
Now, I imagine he's going to be a little bit of a polarizing pick. Certain teams will love him, and certain teams will kind of be off him. But does anybody else have a hard, really passionate Sengun take, positively or negatively?
I think the big worry with him is that he's very post-oriented. Like, he scores in a way that that you don't see a lot in the NBA, short of guys like Jokic or like Embiid or like guys who are way more like physically bigger than he is. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of tough. Like, our team's going to want to run a bunch of like post touches through him like his Euro team did. But I mean, he's a good passer. He shows a little, like, he didn't shoot a ton, but it seems like he has some promise there. So I think he can make it work. The bigger issue is definitely defense, just because he's probably limited to being a center just because he's not very quick. And then he's also only like 6'9". And the Hornets are already not a very good defensive team. So that could be an issue down the stretch. But I think at this point, it's fine. Like, you're probably not that good, that young in a good league, and don't wind up being like at least a solid NBA player.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I think the point about his height and wingspan is actually key, because I don't think he's been officially measured yet. So, like, if he's, maybe an inch taller and his arms are a couple inches longer, that helps a lot in terms of defense. He does seem to have really nice touch, so he might have some potential to shoot the three. Just looking at like even if he's just like maybe Sabonis, which, you know, it takes some work to just be Sabonis, that's still a valuable player to have, and it makes Charlotte a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I think that's the best case comp for him is Sabonis. That's a really good one. They're like the same size. I think they have similar like skill sets as like good passing big men who can score a lot in the post, rebound well. Yeah.
That's why I had brought up and asked Adam if he was thinking about Sengun at 8, because I was thinking of what Anthony said, a comparison to Vucevic, and I also saw the Sabonis comparison. You get rid of Vucevic, you bring him back in.
That's interesting for sure. So let's get. I think we have 3 picks left here. So we have San Antonio, we have the Pacers, and then we have the Warriors to close it out. So let's actually get to the Spurs. So Zach is going to come back on, and he's going to pick for the Spurs. So Zach, where we are sitting right now, when you were thinking of who the Spurs may take without knowing who people were going to draft, are you sitting in a spot where you're like, okay, like this is kind of what I expected? Or are you surprised with either who's still available or who was taken that you thought you maybe could get here?
It went just about, maybe not the order exactly how I thought, but just in terms of, you know, who was going to, so we were brainstorming together on what picks we would do. So we had 3 and then 11 and 12, I think it was, or 11 and 13. Or 12, and so we had like about 6 other prospects to look through, and we got some guys available that we thought were going to be there.
All right, so the Spurs are pretty smart organization. I don't know, Coach Pop may be driven out of Team USA basketball if they keep playing the way that they're playing. But yeah, who do you pick here? And what? I'll actually before that, what do you think the Spurs need? And then go ahead and give your pick.
Oh, well, they're an older team now. It seems like recently the DeJounte Murray situation's been pretty up in the air, whether he'll be there next year or not. So they just honestly right here, I think they need to get a pick that that they can, you know, put in there and, you know, build as a gap to the build a bridge to the future.
All right. Now, who do you select here?
And that's why we're going to go with Corey Kispert here out of Gonzaga.
Okay, so so Kispert, who is you know, a little bit more of like a guy who can kind of come in and probably shoot in the NBA right away, and so you're taking him over guys like Giddey, who's there, maybe some younger players. So you're going with somebody who probably can come in and at least do something, you know, fairly soon in his rookie year.
I mean, we know as long as the Spurs have Pop, they're going to try to be the most competitive team they can be. And we see Kispert as the best three-point shooter in this draft, something similar to your Joe Harris, maybe just, you know, pure white guy that comes out there and shoots threes. But his off-ball movement has looked really good. His catch and shoot's good, and I think he could be really valuable on the wing there.
Okay, so the couple things that, you know, maybe people are a little bit down on Kispert about, you know, not the greatest handle. That's like not really what he is asked to do. The athleticism might be a little questionable. Can you put him out there as a closing 5? I think is maybe some of the argument against him, but you think what he can do shooting the basketball overrides that worry?
Yeah, so like the past 2 years or past 3 years, they've taken a lot of guards. Keldon Johnson plays power forward now, but he was the 2 guard. And they have Lonnie Walker, they have Devin Vassell. So I think with his size, because he is, I think, 6'7", 220, he can play the 3 rather than have to guard other guards. Mm-hmm. So I think it just works out well for both teams. They get another guy that can spread the floor. I think he compares well to Devin Vassell. If Devin Vassell wants to play the 2, or, you know, I think he's just the best available player at the spot. I think if you like at the combine, if you watch like the tape and some of the things, like his athleticism wasn't as bad as I think people thought. So I think he's just going to be able to step in, shoot the ball, and I think he just fits in really well with just about any team. So I think the Spurs are going to like that. He's an older player. He's a winner. Him and Gonzaga just made to the finals, and they lost, but they were undefeated up until then. So I think he's just a very Spurs pick.
All right. Anybody have any thoughts, passionately, positively, or negatively about Kispert?
Just the fact that he's like the perfect pacer, and he was gonna be a pacer. And
he was
y'all
not going
robbed,
to be a pacer.
Well, for me, I was gonna pick him. Y'all robbed him. Y'all robbed destiny.
All right. So I think we got two guys who kind of want to chime in on this Pacers pick, but we're first going to go to Adam S. And we'll talk about what you think the Pacers are going to do here. And then I know Russell also has an idea of what he thinks the Pacers will do. So go for it.
Yeah, so they're like in an interesting spot because I don't think they have any like super glaring needs. They're like a pretty good like team that should be like a 7-6-5 seed or whatever in the East. It seems like they just really clashed with the coach and also had some injury issues last year, but I think they'll probably be good next year. Maybe like an interesting trade candidate with someone like Miles Turner, who had like a good year as a shot blocker last year and kind of overlaps with their best player, which is Sabonis. You don't really need like your two best players being centers in this day and age, so they could do something there. But I think
unless you're the Team France beating Team USA,
that's true. Yeah,
but those FIBA rules is a little different. They allowed to get in.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I think just like it's a good spot to maybe take a swing on like upside. Just because like the one thing they're really lacking is like a true star. I mean, Sabonis kind of, LeVert shows flashes. Malcolm Brogdon's like maybe like a borderline all-star type, but they don't have like that guy who you need to be like a true contender, which is hard to get at 13. But if you're already a good team, it might be a nice time to like take a swing. So I am gonna take. There are a couple of guys here, but I think I'm going to take Jaden Springer.
Okay.
He's one of the youngest guys in the draft. He started a little bit slow at Tennessee, but he was pretty productive by the end. He wound up averaging like 12 points a game, and I think he was at like 16 over their last like 13, 14 games. So he got like once they started playing him more, he took off. Shot 40% from three, shot over 80% from the line, so like a good shooter. Looks like a really, really good defender. Like he's really strong for his age. Seems like he knows what he's doing on that end. Like I think he could be like a Drew Holiday type, like shutdown defender and guarding either like he's probably big enough that he could and strong enough that he could guard point guards or shooting guards. And he's like one of the youngest guys in the draft, so I think there's a lot of untapped potential there. I actually watched a high school game of him against Jalen Suggs that was on like YouTube somewhere, and he kind of whooped Suggs. So he's definitely got some like star power. I think that's untapped. And I think he's like one of the most slept on guys in the draft.
All right, Russell.
Yeah, Adam, it's funny that we opposed on this pick because on the Oklahoma City pick, I feel like we was opposed as well. And with you kind of like how I reached for them there, I feel like it's a reach for Springer because he projected for the late 20s. And we was talking about value at 6. I feel like you can still get good value at 13 as well.
Yeah, I just disagree with where he's projected right now. Like, I think that's the guy people are most off on right now is Springer. Like to me, he should be like a top 10 guy, like with his age and how productive he is and the way he like shot.
Cool. When I was looking at their roster, I was noticing, well, without factoring in the Miles Turner deal, that's probably gonna happen. You can see that they got a lot of front court depth and a lot of back court depth, but I feel like in the wing area they're a little lacking. So I was gonna go with Wagner at first.
If Wagner had made it there, he was gonna be my pick.
I was gonna go Wagner at first, and then I was also gonna go. I'm gonna just wind up going Jalen Johnson because I like him on the wing, and I think that he could fit in there. Give him a little athlete. And Rick Carlisle, when you were saying the thing about the star, I'm like, with him coming straight from Luka, I'm thinking that he probably not even gonna want to be in that type of marketplace for right now. He probably gonna want team-oriented guys, and I think that that'll be a good pick for them because they're gonna undergo a culture change. Maybe probably be a little bit more defensive. Probably have people playing different, because with Turner moving, it's probably gonna give Sabonis more time at the 5 as well. So I think they're gonna be looking for wing depth, and maybe that can help them.
Yeah, Jalen Johnson was definitely on my list for him, so I think that's a totally solid pick.
By the way, what are the spots for Turner? What's the scuttlebutt on possible trade partners for Turner?
I've seen Hornets really need a center. Pelicans I've seen. I think I've seen
Warriors.
Clippers. Yeah.
So I think that is like it'll be more clear after the draft because everybody that could address the needs in a position to, they'll probably address it. And if they can't after, then he'll probably be somebody that you'll start hearing more about.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna wrap this up with the 14th pick here. So Bri, you made the 7th pick for the Warriors. All of a
We're about to
sudden,
have the best draft of all time.
Scotty Barnes was right there for us. We're gonna put him and Draymond together to close out games, but then when there's a foul call and we got to substitute free throw shooters, then we take both of them out. But okay, so not knowing that Scotty Barnes was going to be there for them to pick, does that change your mindset on 14? Because we talked about draft somebody who can play for you and then draft somebody who you can stash in the G League if they're young. Like, you don't have to necessarily draft 2 guys who will play for you. With that said, Scotty Barnes, do you think that strategy is still similar where maybe you draft a young guy? Like the Springer thing was interesting because, and Jalen Johnson too, who is available, because both of them are really young and you don't need them to produce right away.
Mm-hmm. I'm still with that mindset. I still think that, like you said, stash one, play the other, regardless of how you went 7 and 14. If you ended up with Davion Mitchell at 7, then I think you swing for the fences at 14. But we ended up with Scotty Barnes at 7, who I still think is probably more. I think he's going to be a little more pro ready than all those top 6 guys. But I don't know, because you got Cade. Maybe Scotty's like. I think Scotty's going to be able to help pretty right away. So I think you could still swing for the fences at 14. But the guy who I was thinking was not any of the ones you mentioned. But you could still go like, I know they were looking at Duarte at 14 too. Who I don't know. He's like 24.
Yeah, and he would be a guy who they would need to step in and play for them immediately if the 7 pick was for someone who couldn't play immediately.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you do that with Duarte right now in that situation. But because there is still a tall kid who is out there who no one picked who is Josh Giddey. There are some smaller guards here. Cameron Thomas, Keon Johnson, Sharif Cooper. But I don't know if those guys necessarily fit with what the Warriors want to do. And there's a guy I know who you like, and maybe some of it is because he's played for Stanford, who is Zaire Williams, who you would draft Zaire Williams and you would send him to the G League and just be like,
immediately,
dude, you're
I will
playing
buy every Santa
in the
Cruz
G
ticket.
League. You're not going to play for us. So what is your thinking here for this last pick? And then I'm gonna take it around because I know the Warriors are kind of like a people know the Warriors' team probably better than a lot of teams.
I think Giddey being there is definitely really intriguing still, but I'm still going swing for the fences. Zaire Williams at 14, throw him to Santa Cruz, and he could just do it whatever the heck he wants in Santa Cruz. I mean, I still think these picks are getting traded, but if we keep them, then 14 fences all the way.
So I would probably take Giddey here just because of the opportunity, and there's a lot of upside there. He's a tall playmaker. Who knows if he's going to be able to shoot, which is probably the big question. But he's a playmaker, and I think they would figure out a way. But again, this is it's all dependent on what they do at that 7 pick. So I would personally take Giddey, but I want to hear from other folks with the way that you all know the Warriors teams. They've been in the public since 2015. Everybody's watched them. Let's go down for anybody who wants to talk about what you think the Warriors are going to do, would do here. Let's go from top to bottom. John or Chris, anybody, you guys want to make a
I
stab here?
completely agree with Brian. I would say shoot for the fences here. If you get Scotty Barnes at 7, definitely shoot for the fences, and I think Zaire Williams is the right shot there for him. I think he could be really good. He's tall, he is athletic, but he's definitely raw.
Yeah, he's raw. Chris, any thoughts?
I'd say, it's definitely dependent on, if you get that Scotty Barnes pick, which I don't think they really necessarily expect to get, then, you have that freedom. But I think, if not, I would probably if Giddy is still out there, I think 9 times out of 10, because I don't think they'll be getting Barnes, I'd probably go with him.
Adam.
Yeah, I kind of disagree with that a little bit, just because you have Steph Curry, who's one of like the 10, 15, 20 greatest players ever, still in his prime. And if you get Scotty Barnes at 7, you're pretty close to maybe winning the championship again. So I'd go with someone who can spread the floor and maybe still has some potential. Trey Murphy from Virginia, I think, would have potentially been a perfect pick there, because you might be able to help right away, and then also you might have some potential to improve. You can, classic 3-and-D guy.
Yeah.
And then also, like, if Kispert was there, I think he could be perfect, or Duarte as well. I don't think they really could go wrong with any of those three.
Yeah, Murphy was interesting because what was written about him and sort of the things that he was good at. It seemed like some of these prognosticators would fall in love with him a little bit more. But the highest I saw him on a mock was 21, and 2 guys completely left him out of the first round. So I wonder what why the sort of the wide scope of opinions on him.
Yeah, I think some of that's just teams playing cards close to the vest.
Yeah.
I'd be shocked if he fell out of the first round. I think there's a really good chance he goes top 20.
It seems
All
like
right.
he's rising too. Like
Yeah.
he's been like a
Definitely
late
rising.
riser. So depending on like how old the mock is, that might be why he's lower. Because it seems like in the last week you've suddenly seen a lot of him like late lottery or like in early teens, whatever.
Russell,
Yeah.
what do you think?
Yeah, so with me, my main thing was wondering about Clay. Like, is he like? Do we know his status? How much of the season he gonna miss?
I
As
think
far-
with
Oh, I'm
Clay, I think the thought is let's bring him back slowly because 2 injuries back to back like that.
Yeah.
That's risky.
So we thinking like January maybe, or maybe after All-Star break.
If it's up to Clay, he probably wants to play as soon as humanly possible, but the January would not surprise me.
Because honestly, I feel like we talking about them as a possible championship contender. And yeah, this what they do with these picks and the moves they make around that are a big deal. But I think Clay's health is a big part of them competing for a championship again. So I think that kind of, and what you do with Wiseman, I think all of that is. That's why I ain't want nothing to do with these Warriors picks. Like,
All right, Corey, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, well, like they're saying with Murphy, I mean, I think he's definitely rising. I think he's a great 3-and-D guy and would be a big immediate impact for the Warriors. I think one thing with that team is they're very mature. They're win now, so
Almost too mature.
Yeah, that's true. And obviously, we'll see what happens with Clay. But you want someone that can fit in right away, play a role, and Duarte would be a perfect fit right there as well.
They could probably trade down and still get to Duarte too.
Exactly, and I think that's going to be interesting to see who the Warriors can trade with, because it seems like they really want to try and package those picks to get an impact player. Maybe a Bradley Beal, who knows? But if they're stuck at 14, are there going to be enough teams that want to trade up into that spot? We'll just have to wait and see. But they can't go wrong. If you get Scotty Barnes at 7, it doesn't matter what you take at 14. You're just playing with house money.
All right, Zach and Anthony, guys, have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think the Trey Murphy pick is a really good pick. I think it's a great fit. But I don't know if they're going to reach as far down as the board to get him at 14. I was thinking maybe go best available player in Jalen Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
I think 14 is kind of far for him to slip. I think they wouldn't mind picking him up at 14. He's a great athlete.
All right,
going 13.
15.
All right, I want to go from the top to the bottom, and so we'll start with Brian. We'll start, and I want this doesn't even have to happen, but I want your favorite trade rumor that is out there. Tell me what is an intrigue or even trade name, even a name that's out there that is a fun trade idea, because we've heard some crazy ones being Warriors fans. Like everyone is attached to the Warriors in some way. But I want to hear everyone's favorite trade or trade rumor.
Wait, is this just Warriors or just anyone?
Anybody.
I mean, Damian Lillard's a fun name. I don't think how I don't know about that one anymore, but I saw some recent report about Kawhi. That would be a really fun. Well, I guess he's a free agent, but that would just him being available in general just makes the offseason way more fun if that's the case at all.
The Kawhi thing is weird though, because like if you're a team in a position to win, you got to wait for him to rehab, because he did. And I don't know, like they're saying he might be out the whole season, so it's like I don't know, depending on your position and how urgent your situation is, you might not be able to pull out, make that Kawhi thing work. But I'm thinking he's gonna wind up staying with the Clippers probably.
The communication thing with him is so weird, right? Like the injury and them not knowing how hurt he was, or maybe they knew and they didn't say. But that whole communication thing is so weird. And I don't know why it's like that. Maybe he's been that close to the vest. Maybe it's the uncle or whatever. But yeah, that's a weird one. But John,
this is the third straight stop when it's like that too. It's not like this is something that's new. He does this. So when they bring up certain teams, you got to factor that in. Like totally. I've been hearing the Mavericks, and I'm like, I don't know how that's gonna work with Mark Cuban, because I'm a Mavericks fan. So you're talking about you're not telling Mark Cuban your injuries and all. I don't know. So certain fits, I don't see that happening.
Yeah, he's not going to give you the extra crypto if you don't do.
And I don't see him just being okay with not knowing what's going on when his star plays.
For sure. All right, John. Any fun trades out there? Any ideas on guys?
I think Simmons. I think Lillard to take Kawhi's as like a free agent. He can go anywhere if he wants to, but. I think when you get like top players like that in the offseason with the potential to move, you're just gonna hear a lot more different things, and it's gonna be a lot more interesting to see how it all shapes up.
Do you think Simmons moves?
Yes, I don't think Simmons is playing for the Sixers again.
That's an interesting one, because he's not the perfect fit for some of the teams who may be able to add him. So I kind of wonder how that works out for him. Chris, any interesting trade theories for you?
Yeah, I agree. Simmons is not going to be a Sixer anymore. Where he goes, I'm not really sure of. I think Portland's the team I've heard like more about recently than anything.
Is that a CJ move?
Yeah, that's the ones that I've been hearing. I don't know if it's actually going to happen, because I don't know how I feel about it myself, really. But the other one's Lillard. I've heard that one just be crazy, but I don't know. Anything could happen right now.
All right, let's go, Adam.
Yeah, in terms of things around the draft specifically, I don't know if Simmons is going to get moved by the draft. It just seems like that would have to be a 3-team trade, which is always more complicated, because Philly wants players to win now, and then other teams are probably going to have to give up picks to the team that gives up the player that goes to Philly. For entertainment purposes, I just want Miles Turner on the Warriors. Just get him on the Warriors. Let's have another contender in the mix. That's what I want to happen.
Okay, so can Turner is Turner going to be able to be on the court when teams go small?
Oh yeah, easily. He's great. He's a great. He can switch a little bit. He can definitely protect the rim, and he can stretch the floor to make up for Draymond's lack of shooting.
What would you give up? What would you give up for him? Because I don't think people see him as the upper echelon of.
I was just thinking that too. I was just thinking that.
I would. Again, I'm looking at this like you have Steph Curry still in his prime, right? Championship. Like I would give up. I would give up 7 or maybe Wiseman in 14, but I don't like Wiseman at all. I think that was a bad pick, and he looks. I'll just say this: as bad as his rookie year was, rookies that I know he's young and raw, but players that have rookie years that bad don't really turn out to be not even all-stars. They don't even turn out to be starters.
There's no real precedent for last season, though. And I think as maybe for veterans, that's okay to come in and have that topsy-turvy type situation. But for somebody that didn't play much college basketball as well, I think that you can't. It's not fair to judge him on the season that they had last season. I think with a full off season, being with the Warriors, being with NBA conditioned trainers and everything, he'll maybe have a better performance next year.
So that's fair, and that very well could be the case. The other side of that coin, though, is he didn't play a lot in college, so a lot of these problems might not have really been able to see them until he did start to play.
And he's not going to play in the summer league either because he's still injured.
Oh.
Yeah. So if I could get Turner for maybe it's just 14 in salary filler or just 7 and salary filler, but if they demand Wiseman in 14, I would do it.
But if you get Wiseman, if you give up Wiseman in 14, then you could probably get back 13 as well because you can't. That's I feel like that's a lot for Turner.
Yeah, I really love Turner, and I think he's perfect for Golden State. So I'd make it happen.
All right, Adam S.
Oh, yeah.
Any trades you like out there? Any guys you think are going to move?
Brad Beal seems like he might finally be on the move. I think he's been in rumors for 3 or 4 years, but now he seems like he's finally maybe thinking about demanding a trade or agreeing to a trade.
What's the spot for him?
Yeah, see, I don't know. I feel like
so.
Go ahead.
Boston
would make sense. They need more
Boston.
Scoring. Yeah.
It had to be Jalen though, because the St. Louis thing with Tatum and Bill. But I don't know if they willing to give up. They would have to be Jalen. I can't see nobody else.
Yeah, and I don't think I would give up Jalen for just because Jalen's 24 or something. Jalen's crazy young.
And Jalen get better every year too.
Yeah, exactly. He keeps getting better.
So the report was in the Bay Area, which was that Steph and Draymond went to management and were like, "Hey, if Beal is available, we got to take that shot." And so the problem is just money wise, it's really hard. It'd have to be Wiggins, and then it'd have to be, and because you give up Wiggins, you have to give up more of other stuff because the team has to take on Wiggins.
Yeah, it'd have to be Wiggins, Wiseman, maybe both picks or at least one of the picks. You'd have to throw quite a bit in.
Yeah.
The other interesting one I saw the Lakers might try to also with the Wizards might try to trade for Westbrook, which I don't know if it's a good idea, but it'd be kind of fun to see.
That's a great idea. Great idea.
I think him playing with LeBron would just be funny.
Yeah, that would fit well too because it takes a lot of the things that he doesn't do well. You won't have to worry about him. It's when at the end of the game, decision making and all of that. That take that ball out of his hand. You don't got to worry about him losing you games. You could just put him in positions to be successful.
What does he do without the ball in his hands?
That's the problem.
There's no way LeBron wants to play with Westbrook.
LeBron likes LeBron makes weird demands for trades. He's always wanted another ball handler, and then he gets them, and then they wind up standing in a corner because ultimately LeBron does just demand keeps the ball for the whole time. So but he's always talking about how I need help with more playmakers, and then he gets them and they don't do it.
If I was LeBron, I would just say, give me shooting. I'll figure everything else out.
That's exactly what they need. They just need, you just surround that AD LeBron pick and roll with shooters.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, Zach and Anthony, any fun trade things you guys are interested in or have heard?
I'm a pretty big Knicks fan, and thinking about trade possibilities for someone big like Damian Lillard, it does give me a lot of anxiety because over the past year, I've really, really, really fallen in love with this young core that they have. And not to steal from the Sixers, but I would very much like them to, just trust the process and just further build on that culture that they've established, and not do something like the Nets where they, just D'Lo established the culture and then they trade him away. I think that they should just keep building on this culture, and just maybe trade for someone more like Sexton, someone a little bit younger. But another trade that I've really, really liked, and I saw reports of it today, is Buddy Hield to the Lakers in a deal surrounding Kyle Kuzma, because I do like Kyle Kuzma. I think Kyle Kuzma is a good player, but I think as long as he's playing with the Lakers and with LeBron, I think he's right about at his peak where he's going to be. But I think if you move him somewhere where I would really like him to get an opportunity to be the second scoring option on a team, and I think if you pair him with De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Halliburton, I think that it could be a really good fit for him, and you could see him score well. What do you think?
I think it works well for Buddy Hield,
no
too.
Kardashians are going to Sacramento, though.
No, it's not too far, though. It's
it's pretty quick drives.
Yeah. They're not going to be seen in Sacramento.
So
they're like Cowtown? What? No way. All right, go ahead, Anthony.
Yeah, Buddy Hield, I think he works well with LeBron. LeBron, like we said, he needs shooters, and I think Buddy Hield's one of the better shooters in the league. His ball handling is not too bad either. He can take a little bit of the pressure off LeBron. But I think, it works well for both teams. I'm sure there's more logistics with picks and salary cap and players. But I think those two big pieces would be a great switch for each other.
All right, saving Corey for last. I know you got. Some
Oh, I got one
here.
too, though.
Okay, yeah. We'll get. Okay. I'll get to you after Corey.
So I just think anything involving Bradley Beal is just fascinating this year. I think it has to come to a head, whether he sticks it out with Washington, wants to build with them and stay with them, or if he gets moved to a Warriors or a Boston or really anywhere. Whatever happens with Bradley Beal is going to be fascinating because it'll finally just come to an end. So that's what I want to see.
All right.
So I got two. One that I think that they should do, and then, I'll just go to the other one first. As a Maverick fan, it's in my main objective is to somehow get my favorite young player besides Luka, John Collins, to the Mavericks. I think that needs to happen. Like, we can find a way to package him somehow. I know he restricted, but if we could do a sign and trade somehow, I just think that needs to happen.
Are they gonna let him go though?
I don't know. We have to entice him. We got a Latvian,
they
a
got all the way
7-foot
to
Latvian that's looking for a home. Like,
they got pretty far this year. I wonder how willing they're going to be to split that up.
But yeah, it's true. And but the one that I was thinking that is kind of crazy, I heard the Kings come up. I was thinking maybe, I don't know how, Halliburton probably he wouldn't be able to do it, but to entice the Sixers, it'd be Halliburton and Hill. And I'm thinking maybe you trade you got to trade Thibault and Simmons to the Sixers. I mean to the Kings, and you send Halliburton and Hill back to the Sixers.
Fox and Simmons.
Holy no shooting.
Yeah.
That'll never work.
I think the Sixers want because Embiid is like in his prime, like an MVP right now. So I think they want like a star, like a guy. And Halliburton's like good, but I don't think he's that good.
But I was thinking Hill would be the shooting that they need, and because Curry stepped up, and Curry's like the number 2 option now. If he was watching the playoffs,
No, the CJ McCollum to Philly for Ben Simmons makes too much sense. I feel like they're gonna figure something out to center around that after they resolve the Dame situation. So if Dame stays, see if he's open to playing with Simmons. I think it could work out a lot for both teams, but we'll have to see what Dame thinks.
All right, so I think we're good. We got through the 14. We talked about trades. Does anybody have anything? I don't know if you guys want to promote something. Russell, you got some music you're working on. This would be the time because we're about to shut down. So anybody who wants to mention something they're doing or their Twitter or whatever, go for it.
No, I just had a quick thought on the NBA in general. I think next season, I think we're really going to see where the NBA is going to go for the foreseeable future. Whether it's going to be a post-pandemic NBA where a lot of load management, hopefully stars not getting hurt, playing cautious, regular season isn't as exciting as the playoffs, or if it's going to be more like last season where, everyone has a chance. Like injuries become more of a factor. It won't just be, the Blue Bloods or the top organizations, just dynasties. So I'm really interested to see how the NBA is going to be next season and for the foreseeable future.
All right.
Well, I was trying to let everybody go. If nobody else has anything to say, my name is down there, rated R, RAED_R. I got an album coming out next month, the Arnold Palmer album. Just look out for that. That's it. And it's something going on in conjunction with the AEW show in New York that I can't say much about. But if you go into the show in New York, just make sure you have a little space open for something to do after the event.
Little like Wale Mania action kind of deal.
Yeah, kind of like that. Yes, definitely.
Nice.
So
that's a show I wish I could go to.
Yeah, I've been to a bunch of those, and we've also done shows around WrestleMania as well. But this is the first one that I'm throwing myself, and I have a special guest that I want to, but I would just wait a couple weeks for everything will be unveiled, and I can promote it for real. But yeah, right. just be on the lookout.
I hope it's a Max Caster. All right. So all right. So I want to thank everybody. Adam, John, Chris, Adam B, Corey, Brian, Zach and Anthony, Russell, you guys were awesome. I really appreciate this. This is kind of like stuff that I like doing, unrelated to the pro wrestling world, real sports stuff, and to have the opportunity to to work with people who are like really on it. Like you guys are really on this draft stuff, and I appreciate you guys jumping on here because I thought this was really good. So thank you to all of you. Thank you to people watching who watched live. Those of you who are watching on the replay, really appreciate all of you. And that'll be it. So I'm Double G. See you when we see you. Peace.